Hello and welcome back to our Let's Level Design how-to series. Today we're going to be finishing our paper map, and in order to do that we need to insert all of our icons for the player spawns and item pickups, as well as make a map key which details what each of the icons means in our map, as well as filling out these staircases because you need to show what direction they flow in, and we'll include that maybe if we have room in the map key because staircases should be pretty self-explanatory, but we'll see when we get there. Now, in order to pick up icons for, say, health or weapons or armor, we need icons to represent them, just like we have our art to represent our geometry. And I prepared some of this ahead of time by Googling images for the weapons and items and pickups. However, I couldn't get good screenshots from Google of like the ammo for the weapons or the health. So what I did was I went inside of Unreal Tournament, and you just find the pickups that you need to have an icon for, and you just take a screenshot and then you can edit it. And I'll show you how to do that in this tutorial. However, it's much easier to just Google image search things, or you can use the custom shape tool over here on the left. And then up at the top, there's all these different icons. You can download more if you go to thefont.com, things like that. If you're not using an engine like Unreal Tournament or Unreal Editor or the Unreal Engine, whatever you want to call it, you can use icons like this. But if you are using something like Unreal or CryEngine or the Source Engine, you can take screenshots or Google image all the items that you could pick up in the editors and use those because they look a lot nicer than just having a custom shape, and it makes your map look more professional and nice. So to get started, I'll show you how to create an icon. Like I have the impact hammer here and the flat cannon. This is a little bit easier seeing the impact hammer right now. So it started out as this giant screenshot image with a bunch of background stuff, but I edited it down so we just have the weapon. So a good example of what I'm talking about is this right here. I just Google image searched Unreal Tournament 4 minigun, and I found this one's nice high resolution image. One way that we can cut this down so it'll look like our link gun or a flat cannon, so you can use it in our paper map. So you can go to our handy dandy magic wand tool. Remember, the quick swap to that is W. And you can just click in this gray area because this is the area we want to get rid of. And then you just click delete, and it'll delete all of that gray area because all the gray pixels are kind of interconnected, and the magic wand tool kind of finds that and selects the whole section, making it easier to delete it. So you just do that. Now if you notice, if I click down on the dark gray area, it picks up some of the pixels in our minigun, and we don't want that, so Control Z, unselect that. In order to get rid of this bottom section, you can go to the polygonal lasso tool, and we can select all these little tiny images because they're connected to our minigun. Then we just make a selection and then connect it, and you push delete, and now it's gone. And then you can use either eraser tool or the lasso tool. I'm going to use the lasso tool because I already have it selected. And then same thing, just hit delete, and it's gone forever. It's magical. Now I'm going to go back to the magic wand here to delete that because there's just extra space there. And it's okay if it kind of erases some of this because in the end this is going to end up being a lot smaller than how it was when I copied it originally. And then what you want to do is if you copy and paste an image or take a screenshot, it'll create a new layer when you copy and paste it into your Photoshop file. And by default, when you create a new layer, it just has layer number whatever. To rename your layer, you double click on the text of the layer, like right on the text, and then you can rename it. So I rename this to minigun so I can keep track of it later. So I know this is the minigun. And then right click on the layer and click on convert to smart object. You want to do this because we're going to be resizing these images later, and if you have it set as a smart object, then you can resize it, you can enlarge it or shrink it down, and it'll keep the same type of resolution, and the pixels will look a lot nicer. If you leave it as this rasterized layer, then when we shrink it down, the image is going to get super pixelated and it won't look good. You won't be able to tell what it is. So that's why you want to make it into a smart object. So before I had to use the Lasso Tool in order to cut out all the extra stuff from our minigun picture. However, in our rocket launcher picture, you notice that the background's completely white, and then there's no white on the rocket launcher at all. And this is really nice because if we click on it with the magic wand tool and click delete, nothing gets deleted because the color of the pixels isn't close enough to each other. It makes it really nice. So that's a pro tip for when you're searching for images, because sometimes when you copy and paste it into Photoshop, it'll have a black background, and that'll usually make it harder to delete all the black from the background without destroying the picture of your item. Since items, the color tends to look more blackish, and so the magic wand tool will get kind of confused. So I always look for those that have the white background, if it has a background. And then we convert it to a smart object, and we're ready to go. Another thing I did in preparation for today is I created a new folder and I named it icons just to keep track of all these, because we only have one of each right now, and it's going to come into play later when we have to duplicate them and place them around the map. It'll make it easier to kind of recognize and organize everything. So now that we have all of our items, I'm going to switch to the move tool, and I'm going to unhide our small health vial. And then I'm just going to put it over here on the far left with our map key title that I created as well before getting into this. I'm going to move it down a little bit because I want to set the text apart from our icons and the text that's going to go down here. So we have small health. And then what I'm going to do is switch to the text tool. Just trying to decide whether I wanted to create an entirely new folder for just the map key. Because if we have to change where these are sitting later on, it's going to kind of become a mess if the icons and the text aren't close to each other. So you want to be careful of that as well. And then now I want a smaller font that's still easy to read than our map key and all that kind of jazz. That's Comic Sans. Let's see. No. Just go to, for Donna, it's always a good one. And health vial. You can also do health small. Okay, and then we're going to reposition this. Boom. Okay, that looks good. And it's legible from this distance away. So that's good. Okay, and then the next one, we can hide these. Or, no, I'll just leave it. Okay. Then I want to bring our medium health down here. And you can tell the medium health is huge compared to our small health vial. So since I change the layer type to Smart Object. Hit Control T so we can transform this. And then hold down Shift and then click in this corner to do universal scale or uniform scale. And then it'll allow you to just scale down all the edges together, like the name implies. And then we just move that down there and click the check mark or push enter to accept your changes. So now everything looks nice. And then back to our text. Another thing we can do is click on the health file layer and click on the move tool and then hold down Alt and then left click and move. And it'll duplicate that layer. However, it'll duplicate it the layer above whatever layer you're copying. Then you have to pull it down if you wanted to organize it better. So that's just the one time I'm going to do it. I just wanted to show you guys that you can do this that way. And then hold down Shift, left click and move the text so it's all together, and then click on the text tool and then click on the text itself in order to change it. I'm just going to do an abbreviation so it's not all crazy and huge. Okay, and next we got our large health. Can move that down. Control T. That looks pretty good. Accept it, hold down Shift, left click. Just bring it down a little bit. Then go to our text tool. Health large. Then I'll line this up. Boom. It's looking good. Always want to save in case something horrible happens. Let's move our armor boots. Resize it. Looks good. Move it down. Text tool. Then to the move tool. And at this point, I'll just speed this up so it doesn't take forever if I haven't done so already. Right now, I'm just resizing and categorizing our item icons as well as adding the text that goes along with it. Just making sure everything is lined up in our map key. And you'll notice while I do shrink the images, the resolution still stays really high, so you can still see each of the images, so you know what it looks like and what it is from pretty far away. But when we add these into the actual level on the paper map, I have to shrink them down a little bit more for some of them just because of the size. However, you can still see what each of the images is. It's not a huge deal. And I also decided to categorize each of these from health to armor to item pickups like the invisibility and berserk to the ammo, weapons, and then I add in the player spawn and staircase, and later on I added in the drop down holes and the bridge because from far away it's not super apparent what those are supposed to be, so I thought it'd be helpful to add those into the map key. And that's really what the map key is about. You just add in anything you think outside viewer would need to know about your map that's not absolutely obvious. Okay, so now that we have that, I am going to add in all the direction for these staircases. In order to do that, what I am doing is using the custom shape tool. And then in the drop down, there's an arrow. And all you have to do is place that into the map using the left mouse click button and then dragging, and then to whatever size that you want. If you hold down Shift and left mouse button, click and drag, then I'll do a uniform draw. And then up at the top, you can edit the arrows with its fill and outline. So whenever I have a staircase that's ascending relative to the floor that it's on, I have that color coded to red. And then whenever a staircase that's descending in relationship to whatever floor we're on, that's in blue. So while obviously the player can go up and down each staircase, the natural flow, or like where the staircase would be facing, is color coded depending on whether it's ascending or ascending. Like if you're at the top of a staircase, you'd be looking down at it like it's going down, and that's why it's blue arrows versus the red looks like you're going up the staircase. So that's kind of the reason behind color coding the staircases like this and making them stand out a little bit more instead of just being horizontal vertical lines. Alright, now that we have all the staircases in place, it is time to place our player spawns and then item pickups. So to start out with the player spawns, I mentioned in the first episode that I wanted player spawns in this corner and in the top corner. Or the bottom corner, I mean. Sorry. That's the top corner. So you got player spawns there and there. And the rest of these player spawns I'm placing around the map are just in areas where players might be safer whenever they respawn into the map. Okay, I think that's it for the main floor. For the spawns, so I'm going to duplicate this, change it to orange, and move it down into the top floor. I think those are the only two places I can really put player spawns in the top floor, just because of the lack of geometric cover up here. Because from the staircases, if I put them up here, they can get shot at least over in these corners. Will have some cover from the edges right there. So, brings us to the spawn points on the bottom of the map. Just duplicate this, change it to yellow. Bring this down to the bottom layer. Okay, so that's it for the player spawns. We have a nice spread. There's a couple on each floor, and then most of them in the main floor. So I think that's good. Now we need to place our items. Now I'd like to say that in level design, everything is absolutely important, which it kind of is when it comes to geometry and how things look, especially lighting. When it comes to multiplayer maps especially, player spawns and item placement are the most important things, in my opinion, that need to be thought about and designed and implemented into your map. For this, I already placed the player spawns in areas that were in cover, but still had direct flow and routes to pick up weapons or move into another area of the map, while still providing the player a safe respawn because there's cover around them, while also placing player respawns out of the way as well, especially in the bottom floor. I placed some player spawns in areas that probably won't be traversed very much because there's not a whole lot around it, like directly around it. The thoughts about the player spawns is pretty universal for any engine that you might use. However, the item placement is going to be unique based off of the type of map you're creating and the engine you're using, and based off of my prior experience with Unreal and UDK and Unreal Tournament 3. While you can have maps that are kind of barren, through playtesting, I felt like the more is better when it comes to items because it's so fast paced and people die so quickly. it's really advantageous to have a lot of things scattered throughout the map. It doesn't mean like your map needs to be super cluttered, which it might appear to be on our paper map a little bit, just because of the sizing of everything. However, once we get into the editor, things will be more spread out and it'll flow a lot nicer, because what I do is I place, say, health files at going across and up staircases, so it gives the player a reason to go up staircases and move around. Because if you put all of your items in one location, then players are just going to camp, and they're just going to sit there in the entire game. You want to spread out your items, and that's what I'm trying to do here and illustrate with the health items as well as the weapons and the ammo, to really force the player to move around in the map. And so you can use that in Unreal in order to guide the player. In other editors, say like, again, I'm going to talk about Left 4 Dead. What I would do in that map or in that editor is focus way more on lighting to guide players, since you're kind of restricted on ammo and weapons. Usually in a Left 4 Dead map, you start out with all the items that you can have in a game, and then about halfway through, there's like an item fountain again. So like you get items like ammo or better weapons, maybe some health items or lesser health items like the pills or adrenaline shots scattered throughout in between those 2 points. And then you might only have one or two of the bigger things like ammo, weapons, or health halfway through the map, because then once you get to the safe room, then you get a whole entire replenishing of everything. So it really depends on the editor you're using. So since we're using the Unreal Engine, we're going to make this for Unreal Tournament 4. And I really wanted to use as many items and weapons as I could, since I've been working in UDK for years now. And the stock UDK only comes with the shock rifle, the link gun, and the rocket launcher. So to be able to have access to the Enforcer, the Gatling gun, the bio rifle, the sniper rifle, all those weapons, I'm going to take advantage of it. And it might get crazy once we get into the actual editor itself and we start playtesting, in which case I'll just take things out or add things as needed. But I really wanted to place a variety of items throughout the map and just vary it up in order to get players to move to different locations of the map once they figure out how to move through everything, to make it more exciting and fun for the player, because it's all about the player. You know, that's what level design's about. You want people to have fun. The last step is to add a box for our map key. However, I want a cooler box than just a generic rectangle. And this shape looks terrible, so we need to change it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our paper map. Good job. We're done. So congratulate yourself. We did it. It looks beautiful and it's amazing and awesome. To be honest, this is probably the best paper map I've created to date, and I'm super happy and impressed with the results, and I hope you guys are too. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below. And I'll see you next time. Bye.